Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. We're going to learn about scatterplots and you'll be working on 12.3. Today students will be able to identify a correlation in a graph and also if they have linear, quadratic, or exponential fit. So today in class I ask students hours of sleep compared to hours they watch TV. And so my X is going to be the hours students sleep, and the Y represents the hours they watch TV. And so these were the results of a class of 14 students. So I had 8-0. That means they sleep 8 hours and watch 0 TV, 0 hours of TV. One student sleeps 5 hours and watches 1 hour of TV. I have a student who sleeps 5 hours and watches 3 hours of TV. Another one sleeps 7 and watches 2 hours. Another one sleeps 6 hours and watches 2 hours of TV. A student sleeps 7 hours and watches 1 hour of TV. Another student sleeps for 3 hours. I think that student was about to graduate, that's why, and watch TV for 2 hours. Another student sleeps 6 hours and watches TV for 0 hours. Then 7 hours of sleep, 0 hours of TV, 5 hours of sleep, 0 of TV, 4 hours of sleep, wow, and then 2 hours of TV. Another student also 4 hours of sleep and watches 2 hours of TV. One student sleeps 5 hours and sleeps 5 hours and watches 0 hours of TV, and then finally 4 hours of sleep and 0 hours of TV. So if we were to graph this data, it would look something like this. Okay, you can see it. I noticed that for my X, I have numbers no bigger than 8. So I'm going to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And for my Y, I have numbers no bigger than 3. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3. 4. I'm just going to go to 4. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This will be 0. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. And so the hours that we watch TV and the hours we sleep. So the first one is 8-0. 8-0 is right here. Then the next one is 5-1. So 5-1. The next one is 5-3. 5-3. And so right now that I'm graphing, I want you to look at the data and see what relationship you see. 5-3, 7-2, 7-2, 6-2, 6-2 is right here. 7-1, it's around right here. 3, 2. I could not do that. Sleep only 3 hours. 6, 0. It's right there. 7, 0 is right here. 5, 0. It's 5, and then you don't go up. 4, 2. 4, 2. It's right there. 5, 0. Another 5, 0. And 4, 0. It's right there. Okay, so a scatter plot, we're going to put in here a scatter plot. It's a graph where you have different points and it's not in a specific line, okay? There are points a little, kind of like a bigger area, okay? It's not a perfect line. And there are different types of correlation. If there is no, like if the points are not kind of like going up, not exactly in one line, but they're kind of like following a pattern, and I'll show you right now a couple, and they're going up, that will be positive correlation. If it goes down, it will be negative correlation, but in here it's kind of like just all over the place, but in this small area. Okay, and this is something that I ask my students. So in here, there is no correlation. No correlation. Okay. Again, there is no correlation because they're not kind of lined up in a nice line. Okay. So for this lesson is just to get you familiar. We're not analyzing specific data, but it's just to get you familiar with this type of graphs. So if we had something like this, let's say shoe size, and maybe like have the height of the person and the shoe size, there are going to be people who are a certain height, but the shoe size is a little bit different. However, they're not very, like one is in here and then the other one is here. No, it's not all over the place, but kind of like maybe something like that, okay? And if you notice that the taller the person is, the bigger the size of the shoe. Not exactly the same for a person that is the same height, the same shoe. It's not exactly for everyone, but you know, it's kind of like there is a relationship that as they grow taller, their shoe size is also bigger. Okay, we call this positive correlation. And so I gave them this example, but I also asked students to give me some more examples that they think would have or create kind of like a positive correlation scatter plot. And so these are some examples that my students gave me. Study hours versus grade. So the more you study, the higher your grade is going to be. The less you study, the lower your grade will be, okay? Another one was rain, inches of rain. Oops, I wrote it backwards. Versus umbrellas sold. So the more it rains, the more umbrellas that will be sold in a store. Okay. Another one was hours of sleep. Although I'm wondering about this one because I don't know if the more you sleep, they said versus health, the better your health will be. I think our health encompasses other things than just sleep, like the way you eat, the way you exercise, also genetic, like depending on your health history, like your parents' health and your relatives, your ancestors. Also, your health depends on that as well, not only on sleep. But that's an example that students came up. The more you sleep, the better the healthier you're gonna be, basically. I think it is important for you to sleep, but it's not the only thing that is gonna help it. Okay, another one that came up, although things are changing, cars versus smog or pollution. Hopefully with the new technologies that are coming up, that's not going to be the case, because maybe the more cars we have, the less smoke there is going to be if we have those green or hybrid vehicles. But for now, the more cars there are, the more smoke there'll be. And then another one that they came up with was heat versus water salt, I guess bottles of water. So if it's super hot on a certain day, then more bottles of water that will be salt. Okay, and all of those the more you have on X, the higher it's gonna go on Y. Okay, so sometimes you will have what is called negative correlation. Okay. And it's when, again, the points, they're not exactly on one specific line, but they're spread around a line that goes kind of down. Okay, so when it goes from on Y, it starts up here and then it starts decreasing. That's called negative correlation. And so same examples that my students came up with were exercise versus weight. So the more you exercise, right, the higher you go on X, which is how much exercise you do, the less you're gonna hopefully weight. Okay, of course that also depends on what you eat. Okay, but the more you exercise, the less you weigh. Another one that they came up with is spending versus money in the bank. The more you spend money, the less you will have on the bank. Okay? And let me see. One was that the higher the temperature, the less coats will be sold. Okay, the higher the temperature, the less coats there will be. And one student say, the more homework we get, the less we sleep. So the more homework we get, the less time that there will be sleeping. Oh, okay. The more homework there is, then less sleep. Okay, so these are some examples of how your correlation would be negative. Okay, Finally, just gonna share in general information about sometimes how the graphs might have linear fit, quadratic fit, or exponential fit. Those are the type of graphs that we have been studying in algebra. And again, this is just if, like, with scatter plots, like what seems to be happening in general. So when it's kind of like in a line, it's called linear fit. And those are just like the examples that we shared with you a minute ago about the positives and negative correlations. All of those have linear fit. But then we have parabolas, okay? And again, it might not be exact, but okay, we might even have one somewhere over here, but in general, it looks like it's forming a parabola, so that's called a quadratic fit. Okay. And the last one is, especially, I don't know if you remember that I told you when we were learning about the rabbits, that in nature is not perfect, but that nature follows kind of like a pattern. Okay, you start with 2 rabbits, and then the next month, even if 2 families start with 2 rabbits, the next month it might double it, but then for another family they might only have 3 instead of 4, and so on. So that's, again, nature is not exactly at one point, but it follows an exponential. Okay, it has an exponential fit. Okay, so with this, you're ready to do exercises for 12. I'm sorry, for 12.3. Again, it's just for you to see in general what scatter plots are, what correlation they have, and also what kind of fit they might also show. Okay, so have fun.